Welcome to Conversation Mill. Join me as I talk to individuals stepping out to pursue their passions, from small business owners to community leaders, and learn with me how we can work together to support our local communities and local economies. Visit conversationmill.com to learn more, but now please join us in conversation. Joining me on this episode of Conversation Mill is John Bryson, the architect of a new cutting-edge investment app, Matty. Matty App's mission is to help individuals achieve their short and long-term goals. John shares with us how much learning comes with entrepreneurship and how having the willingness to admit what you don't know can be your greatest strength. We discuss what makes Matty App different and its future. Join us in conversation and learn how you can utilize Matty App to set your financial goals. Let's start with, what is Matty App?
What is Matty App? Great question. So Matty, number one, we need to set out and understand what the name means. It's not my name. It's not my middle name. A lot of people that their names are Matthew or Matty are like, oh my gosh, I knew you always loved me. I was like, yeah, I do, but that's not your name. So Matty is short for mattress. And I went off the whole concept of storing money under the mattress. I know it's like a little bit of an older analogy, but it's kind of giving the example of a safe place to hide money.
Yes.
And a lot of times the stock market, so Matty is a retail investment app, is not a safe place for money, especially now, like looking at the last 6 months.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say, because I think a lot of people are like, should I start hiding my money under my mattress again versus putting it in the stock market? So when I saw that name, I thought that's actually pretty perfect.
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of, be able to use that in my marketing as everyone's looking for safe places to put their money. Yes, investing with it comes the risk. I mean, there is no investment that's a guarantee. And that's the first disclaimer I have to say. There is no guarantee on investing. You're taking a chance on something that's very volatile, the market. But there's a lot of things that you can put in place, that can help limit some of the risk that you're taking.
And that's what Matty App
and that's what Matty does.
Aiming to do.
Exactly.
Let's back up a little bit before we really dig into like the ins and outs of Matty App, because it does have some very unique things that are going to be different than other apps. But how did you, what is your background that got you into hey, I want to create an investment app?
Yeah. So my background is not finance at all. And that's why I made Matty, was to help people like myself. I was at Clemson for 6 years. I went the long route, only to end out with a bachelor's of science degree. So, I definitely had my fun. But I also worked full time in Greenville. So I started out, I went to it's called a program in Caldwell Tech in Hickory, North Carolina, called bioengineering technician degree. So it was like a 2-year associates of science degree. I wanted to do medicine. And so I went down that route of getting into the hospital, being able to be around all the doctors and kind of get my feet wet. I did do my research. It was like a decent, credit, if you will. You got to have credits in order to get into med school, and even to get into paramedic, be a paramedic, it's just good, experience and exposure. So I went down that route, but I'm like a B average student, which means there's going to be some lower grades than a B, maybe a couple higher ones. But I found out real quick, I am very average, and I'm not going to be getting the #1 scholarship. So my business brain went to work and was like, you don't need to do med school.
Sorry to interrupt you, but what motivated you to try to do med school?
I just love people. Okay. I love helping people. I get like a high off of knowing that I changed someone's life for the better. And so that was kind of my first intentions. So from there, I went into medical sales. And I, again, love people, love being able to sell a product that I believed in. I sold cancer diagnostic equipment. And I also sell diabetic diagnostic equipment. So the instruments in the laboratory that diagnose people with multiple myeloma and diabetes. And so that was rewarding because I'm changing lives indirectly, but I'm changing lives and helping people,
bringing the best technology to the
exactly. And I worked for a company that I believed wholeheartedly in. So I wasn't like, putting lipstick on something and just saying it's good, just to make a paycheck. I always wanted to do investing, whether it be in real estate or in stocks, but I didn't know. I didn't know what to do. So I started the real estate process. I flipped 7 houses here in Greenville and did that. Very labor intensive, no time, just you sleep, eat, study, work, repeat, and it's just not a lot of time. I started playing around in the market, reading, investing in the stock market for dummies, and started trying to get, my understanding of it.
Where does your ambition come from? Because it's hard to go to school, even part-time, work a job,
right,
plus study, plus now dig into the stock market on the side. Like that's 12, 14, 16-hour days.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm a bit ADD. Like I've constantly got to go. Very driven. Sometimes it's a blessing. Sometimes it's a curse. It's funny though, because when my mom, she passed from cancer. But people, when she was alive, people used to call her a little Energizer bunny because she was constantly go. So maybe I get a bit from her.
Yeah.
My dad's big into business, so maybe I get my business brain from him. And so, I transferred, my money out of real estate and started investing in stocks. Right before that, I was, learning. And then right after, the whole meme stock craze hit the market. Remember when AMC, the stock AMC, GameStop, Naked, these were a couple of just the BlackBerry, that was another one.
Yep.
And it was like a casino in the stock market. Like people were investing. Because I was already starting to get my feet wet before all this happened, I was smart enough to know that I bought in early and got out early. When I made a little bit, but not as much as some people did.
Sure.
But then COVID hit, and then it seemed like we all were getting these stimulus checks, and then everyone was downloading an investment app and putting their money on it, and they didn't know what to invest in. You asked me, how did I come up with this idea? So I was literally walking down Main Street, Greenville, and my girlfriend wanted to go into the boutique down there. I think it's called Dress Up. I looked up at the street sign and it said Main Street, and it's not broad. I'm trying to remember what side street it was, but I saw Main and whatever the side street was. And it was like I had a revelation in my head, and I thought, why can't there be an app or a platform that takes all the knowledge of Wall Street, all the knowledge that I want to have and be successful? And I'm not talking about being greedy here and making just stupid amounts of money. Hey, if that happens, great, more power to it. But I'm just talking about making positive investments that grow over time and that actually have a little bit of smarts behind them. Like what? Like why? Why did I invest in this? Yeah, I was like, there's got to be a way. And my brain just started thinking. So I stood outside of Dress Up staring at the sign. And in fact, it's really funny. My first web domain that I bought was mainstreetmarkets.org. So I had to get away from that because it was going to be Main Street Markets and my logo was going to be Eminem.
Okay.
And I was playing with that. And then I just didn't feel like it was catchy
really
enough.
Tell the story too of what this app is and what it's
exactly. And I know I've got a lot of work with the name Matty. I think there's a lot of marketing that needs to go around that so that people understand.
Something that I've used in other businesses that I worked with was animations. a mattress with money out of the bottom
Yes.
as like an analogy in one of those animated explainer videos.
Yes.
So as soon as I connected Matty and mattress, I'm like, ooh, I love that name. But yeah, it is tricky because you're going to have to almost put that image in people's minds.
But if you think about it, some of the apps that you use today, like Venmo, what the heck does
Right.
Venmo mean?
Exactly.
But it's now become a verb. Venmo me some money. Yeah, I'll Venmo you tomorrow.
Yes.
It's like, so it's become a verb. And I'm hoping that, as we get going, I'm still a very, very brand new, newborn startup, but maybe Matty can be a verb, and we can talk about that a little bit later, but you have the ability to share your financial goals and then people can send you money to your Matty.
I love that.
So like, hey, just Matty me some money. It's my birthday. Everyone hates going out and getting gifts because no one knows what the other person wants. So it's like, guess what? Good old John will take the effort away for you and just Matty them some money. It's just simple. Send them $10.
That's great.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit let's dig into Matty a little bit more, because I also want to talk to you about a couple other things just kind of in the financial sector a little bit. But since we're kind of talking about Matty becoming a verb, how does it compare against, I kind of looked up a few different apps. The only one that I was like, maybe this is kind of close is Acorns.
Yeah.
That might be kind of close to what you're doing.
Sure.
What would be the big difference there maybe between Acorns and Matty?
So the biggest difference with Acorns is like Acorns takes, like if you go to Starbucks and buy, a coffee for, $3.27, it's going to take the difference that makes $4. And it can throw that in there. You can also wire up Acorns to take from your paycheck a percentage amount and stuff like that. That all is going to be developed into Matty as well, soon coming in the future. But Acorns is that difference from $4 to $3.27. That's called your Acorn. So it's taking small amounts over time. If you think about in your life what you spend money on, it's very rarely ever that you're spending an even dollar amount.
Right.
It's always some cents. So there's this Acorn mentality of planting that seed early. Great app. It's cool. I think Matty is more catering towards individuals that want to be more in charge of their investments and maybe are interested in a little bit of the day trading lifestyle, because Matty kind of manages your portfolio intraday. So it's constantly managing it.
You're setting a goal right when you go into Matty, regardless, or do you have to set a goal?
You don't have to set a goal.
Okay.
Right. So when you download the app, you sign up, it asks you if you want to connect your social media, Instagram. Once you get into the app, you can also add your Facebook and your Twitter name. And essentially what it does is it doesn't connect to that. It takes a look at it one time. So you can go back. So let's say you have a lifestyle change. You should go back and recalibrate your lifestyle portfolio to allow the app to understand. But let's pretend you like dogs, you like sports, you like fashion, maybe you shop at Lululemon. I don't know, whatever the is in your lifestyle preference, then maybe some of the stocks will be in that sector. So Lululemon is a stock.
Right.
Travel, maybe it's American Airlines. For pets, maybe it's Chewy.com.
Right.
Those are some different stocks that are in unique sectors. So what I tried to capture was that question that I had in my head is, how do I get myself and people to know what they're investing in? How do I create that social sentiment attachment to, oh, well, I shop at Whole Foods all the time. Maybe Amazon might be a stock that I buy. That really makes a lot of sense to me. I'm actually like buying ownership in a company that I support daily or weekly. So it kind of creates that Warren Buffett trading mentality of invest in what you know and not just because you read it or you saw it on TikTok or Twitter or something like that.
And that kind of, I think that's what a lot of people are doing when they're just, I shouldn't say just, but a lot of people are putting money into a 401k and maybe their company matches and they're just like letting that ride and they're not going in and seeing what that 401k is. Because you can, if you are interested in it, you can go in and control where the money's in that 401k go.
Yep.
And then others are maybe going to, I'll just give myself for example, is I have an Edward Jones account and a rep that I work with. He and I, though, have a great relationship. So I will call and be like, hey, I have some money to buy some stocks. What are your top 5 right now and why? And then we jump on a call and we talk about them. And he's like, you might not like this one because of XYZ. You might like this. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I like that. So we have a conversation about we do it. A lot of those for me are long term. I'm not doing a lot of day trading or kind of short-term things. But a lot of people are maybe just going to someone like an Edward Jones, agent. Here's some money for stocks. Buy me whatever has the highest dividend or something. And just like walking away. So this is giving you a little bit more control. But what is there a pro or a con to that versus just going to an Edward Jones agent and being like, hey, I have 50 grand to invest in stocks. Find the best for me. Goodbye.
Yeah. So essentially it's the same. Except everything, as you know, you can date on an app, you can order food on an app, you can do everything on an app. You can buy a car and deliver it to your front sidewalk. So everything is slowly but surely, evolutionizing towards this AI app-driven world.
Yeah.
If you look at the market of Charles Schwab, Fidelity, Edward Jones, their biggest issue is that they're seeing a decline in their growth per year because individuals my age, maybe younger than me, in their teens, they're getting away from the standard brick and mortar investment agencies and they're wanting to control a little bit more. And so Matty, yes, while it's early in its startup stage, it's also a little bit early in this market, but there's extreme projections with this robo advisory / investment model growing exponentially over the next few years. And so I'm one of the first in its space.
I love it as an addition to kind of that traditional investment space where I have my IRA over here and I can monitor that and have my annual meetings with my Edward Jones. And then on a monthly basis, I can be popping open something like Matty App and going, oh, hey, how's that Chewy.com stock doing?
Right.
Did we trade it? Did I buy more? What,
Exactly.
So talk to me a little bit about the AI associated with it and the algorithms that you're using.
Yeah. So if you could imagine like a giant coffee filter, it's this like, it's a filter. It's like a V shape. Up in the top, the computer or the algorithm is understanding who you are, who I am, and kind of like putting you in buckets, if you will. And then from there, but that only accounts for like, I don't know the exact mathematical number, but maybe like 10% of the choice of why it buys a certain stock or sells a certain stock. Then it goes through technical indicators of, stochastic indicator, RSI. These are all traditional trading models, if you will. And so it says, okay, you like dogs, so we're going to put you in this bucket. Chewy.com is performing well because this model is trending this way. So it does all this mathematical analysis. And then it also has to throw in there the fact that you put $100 in there. Well, maybe the person down the street put $50 in there or $1,000. So it's going to split that money up differently for the person down the street versus you. And so it's got all this math going into, and I enjoy math. So I was really intrigued in this. And then on top of all of that, it's learning. So that's where the AI comes in, and it's constantly learning, okay, so this model said this model said this individual likes this particular type of lifestyle. So when we put them in this sector or in this particular stock, it performed, better than XYZ stock. And so it's constantly learning, and it's constantly getting more and more smart. The more people that get on the platform, it learns more and more and more. So yeah, knowledge is just indefinite, essentially.
Who did you go to work with to work on these algorithms and go and start creating and developing this app?
I said earlier, I was getting involved in stock market. I used this. It's called FinViz, FINVIZ.com. And if you go in there, it opens up. It's a giant stock screener, but there's like over 100 different filters that you can put on this stock screener. And so every morning I would wake up. I'm an early bird. I like to get up. I go to sleep early, so I'm like a grandpa, but I'm up.
I'm with you.
And I'm drinking my coffee. It's a religious ritual that I have. I love my coffee. And I was looking at this filter, and I learned what different filters meant, and I would filter out stocks. So I'd pick like 50 stocks, and then I would start running them through the filter so that by 9:30 every single morning, I knew I had 10 stocks for the day or for the week or, whatever my trading period was. And so that's what took me so long. And I was doing all that. So back to the story of how it happened with walking down the street, I was like, there's got to be a way that's much easier than what I'm doing. Geez, we live in a beautiful world with tons of technology. So then it becomes not what you know, but who you know. And I think it's a gift. I love to meet new people, and I love to just talk. So
that is a gift because, like you said, it is a lot of times who you know.
It is, because I'm not that smart.
Not being afraid to ask for help.
Yeah,
is so huge.
And show your vulnerability. Be like humble. And that's really kind of how I got started, because I had the idea. I was using FinViz, and I'm like, gosh, this is so laborsome. And I felt I had gotten good enough to where I was about 60% successful and 40% unsuccessful. So I'd already beat the 50-50 flipping a coin on the day to see, or the week to see how you go. And I was already more successful than not on my trades. But I was still like, gosh, there's got to be a method to this madness. And so I live at an apartment downtown Greenville, and I met this guy over a glass of whiskey and a cigar, and we just started talking. I found out he was one of the top Google developers. Wow. And he was not retired, but he kind of he was on retainer by Google, if you will, as a developer. And they brought him in on some high level development work that they were doing. And so I went to him after I had my glass of whiskey one night and kind of build that rapport and that relationship with him. So I liked him, he liked me. And I was like, hey, I just want to run by this idea.
Yeah.
And so back to the story, I'm walking down Main Street. I get the crazy idea about calling this thing Main Street Markets. I've got this idea, I've got to write it down. And so I ran back down because my apartment's right there by the AC Hotel. I ran the whole entire way, and I texted this guy because I got his number, and I texted this guy. I was like, hey, I don't know what you're up to, but would you like another glass of whiskey? I've got this cool idea I'd like to run by you. So he's like, yeah, meet me up on the rooftop, because there's a rooftop.
Yeah.
So I go up to the rooftop, and I was like, I'm sorry that I'm kind of being really vulnerable in front of you here, but my mind just goes 25,000 miles an hour, and I just got this crazy idea, and I kind of drew it out an idea. I kind of draw little pictures and stuff. And so I showed him what I had written down and drawn out, and then I told him about the revelation I had on Main Street. And he was like, interesting. And so later that night, he took a walk And he walked right out of DECA, and he gets right there on that is actually Broad in Maine. And he looks right across the street, and what building is on across the street? Opposite of the Peace Center, it's Fidelity.
Yep.
And his lights went off in his head. He's like, holy cow. Come to find out, this dude is best friends with the Johnson family who runs and owns Fidelity. So he calls them. He's like, you've got to explore this. And so from that point on, Matty, essentially, it was Main Street Markets at the time, but it was born right then.
Wow.
And I started doing research. I started talking with Barclay and his financial advisors. Slowly but surely, I accrued this massive team that was all interested in this idea. And, now I'm here. I've got an app that's on the App Store and Google Play, and it's working great.
Yeah, that's incredible. I love the part of the story that I love is you had an idea and you put down everything to run and go, write it down and let that light bulb turn into a fire.
Right.
And I think so many people might go, oh, I have this idea, but they don't have that drive or that ambition. You have to sacrifice, and you have to sometimes drop things and go do. You have to stay up late and work on the idea. You have to do an interview on a weekend. You have to make the time.
Right.
And so I love that part of the story of like, hey, here's my credit card. I'm literally running home to write this down before anything leaves my brain. I'm going to make the connections right away. What was the time frame of that? It's fairly recently that you've started.
Yeah. So I've been investing in the stock market for probably about 2.5 years. So I'm a newbie, like extreme newbie, in no way an expert.
And you weren't afraid. You weren't afraid to have to now go pitch this app to investors or talk to a developer about it. I only have 2 years experience.
Well, I think that's what makes me unique. People want to see genuine, vulnerability. It levels it like lowers temperatures in the room. And I don't know, I'm not afraid of showing my, underside, so to speak, and my vulnerability. I think if I can execute and show that can be my greatest strength, because then people are good. There's some bad cookies in the world, but people love to help people. And so together, I'm not in this for myself. I'm in it to win it with everybody. I want to be a part of that tide that raises all the ships in a harbor. It just doesn't raise one. It raises all. And so, that for me is what tickles my fancy, if you will, because I can now hopefully be a part of that. But no, all I've experienced through this from start to where I'm at now, and I'm like really in the heat of it, is people have responded to my vulnerability, my honesty, and they want to help. And they want to see me succeed, but they also realize that I'm tackling a massive problem in the world today, and they want to succeed themselves. And so like, hey, this actually has some legs. Let's work together.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to show all your cards. I mean, there's some, you need to keep things private. I had to get a patent in place and stuff like that because of I call it the special sauce that I use that makes me so successful on the market, trading. And I feel like I'm getting an MBA without actually getting an MBA because I don't have one, but I've learned so much.
And isn't that the way though? I only did 2 years of college and then I left school because I was like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
Right.
I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up, but it has led me to learn so much about so much.
Oh yeah.
And I'm so grateful for that, and gives me the opportunity to talk to people like you and learn from you and just experience different things.
I was talking with a couple of other people, I think it was last week, and they were commenting on, they're like, you're doing something really, really cool. And they wanted to ask, like, how'd you get involved in this? And I think with that comment that you made about being vulnerable, it opens up a lot. And if you truly do want to learn, you can learn so much from other people. And I think if you come in with such a cocky attitude and Mr. Know-it-all, Mrs. Know-it-all, you hem yourself in and you eliminate growth. And I think we all want growth. We want growth in our finances, especially, but we want growth mentally. We want growth spiritually. We want growth in every aspect of our life. You eliminate the potential for that when you think you know. And so I've found it to work in my best benefit to play the card I don't know. And people love to give you education. I'm just saying, especially older folks, and rightfully so. They've experienced a lot more than I have. And so they love to like bestow their knowledge. And so when you do that, of course, there's maybe things that don't work for you or you don't quite appreciate or relate to. That's okay. You're entitled to your own belief. But I think when you are so closed-minded and you think you know, you just miss out on the beauty in this world today. And I've learned so much from people in the last 2 years. I feel like I'm having school through a fire hose and I'm just like trying to drink all the water, but it's too much. But
I love that analogy. Yeah. And what's old becomes new again. So even if someone who's a couple generations removed from you is telling you how they used to do it, there's probably a grain of salt in there that you can pull out that actually is progressive. Or like when you bring something that's old or traditional into something that's new with a new technology or a new idea, you can knock it out of the park.
Right.
We kind of talked about it a little bit because you mentioned not knowing the stock market, learning it on your own. But I was reading this morning actually on Forbes that 8 in 10 teenagers don't have a savings account. And 87% of them say they don't understand personal finances, which terrified me for them. Right. But also for me, because there are people that are going to be paying into the systems, taxes, things like that as we. So talk to me a little bit about how Matty App, now that it's an investment app and it's setting goals. So it's a little bit different, obviously, than a savings account, but it plays into that broader financial literacy of here's another way you can set a goal and make money. Right.
So those statistics are very relevant. I think plus or minus, we've got 323 million people in the United States today. 100 million, so almost a third of the population does not have any kind of investment account. And we know that investing is the number one vehicle to growing future wealth.
Right.
So, a third of our population, and that's a growing number. Like you said, the individuals that are going to be the new decision makers in the next 30 years.
Yes.
There's a massive disconnect. And so Matty is registered with the SEC and FINRA as a registered financial advisory firm for internet purposes only. So I don't have a brick and mortar. You can't come and talk to me and I advise you on your portfolio. I'm not a financial advisor. I can't claim that. My firm is, and I have individuals that are holding those licensures to allow me to legally be a, financial advising firm. But what we're trying to do, and we've got some future updates that are coming to the app that I'm extremely excited about, that are going to help individuals, create that goal. So you mentioned earlier about a 401k.
Yeah.
Matty kind of operates similar because you can have 10, 15, 20 different stocks at one, period of time. But you have a lot more say over versus a 401k. And it's personally tailored to you, but I would say right now I created Matty for people that they want to buy a new car next year, or they want to go on a vacation, or they want to pay off student debt. Or they're getting married, honeymoon fund. What cool thing to get a wedding invitation in the mail that says, you can go to my registry at Bed Bath & Beyond or whatever, or you can just send me money to my Matty. And let's say they have a Matty goal of $10,000 for their honeymoon. shoot, I would spend twice as much money sending it to you versus me wasting an hour and a half of my time getting lost trying to find a knife or silver, something in Bed Bath. Like, I just hate shopping. So that's kind of why I came up with the ability to send money, because I'm like, I got to get this.
Well, I love that aspect and that idea. And I think if that's the idea that can stick, man, like that's golden, because I think so many of us and younger generations I'm noticing are like, don't get me anything. Or, for me, I'm like, get me an experience. Right. Like, I don't need any gifts. I've been very blessed.
Yeah.
I've worked for what I have. I honestly there's not one tangible item right now that I can think of that I need. So take me on a hike, take me somewhere.
Right.
But if you must give me a gift because you can't be here, send me money.
Yeah.
Send me a gift card. Send me a gas card.
Yeah.
But if somebody could drop money into an investment account and go, hey, I couldn't take you to dinner, so here's $75 into your investment account. That's awesome.
I know. Let me ask you this question. Do you use Venmo?
Yes.
Do you ever empty your Venmo into your bank account?
Yes, because I don't use it a ton.
Okay.
But yeah, I do.
So maybe this question is not going to work on you, but like, I never empty my Venmo account.
Oh, okay. So because you're just Venmoing people
back and forth. Yeah. But inevitably there is a balance, and my dad always raised me like, I'm the man, I pay for everything. Mm-hmm. So inevitably, my balance keeps growing. So what if instead of using Venmo, you use Matty, and I just said, let's say I paid for your lunch and you wanted to shoot me $10, $12, whatever. And I was like, yeah, just send it to my Matty. And so that money is constantly growing. Yes, you can pull it out at any time. Just hit the liquidate my account, and then boom, there's your money. You deposit it back in your bank account.
But your money's constantly working for you and growing.
And maybe there's some down days, and maybe that $12 turns into $10. Mm-hmm. But over the course of time, investing has shown that, your positions, they grow.
What stage are you in right now in where the app is? I know it's on Google Play Store and it's in the Apple Store. Yep. So what iteration of the app is it in, and what does the next 6 months hold for it?
Yeah. So I've done like hardly any marketing. I've put every dime of my money into developing the back end. Now, the reason why that's so important is my app, and this is very technical, but it contains an SDK. SDK stands for Software Development Kit.
Okay.
And what's so unique about that is I don't necessarily want to compete with Robinhood. Robinhood has like over 20 million users, and quite honestly, they do good at what they do. I mean, if you know what you're doing and you want to play around on Robinhood, it's simple, it's user friendly, it does the job. My app is more or less for people. Yes, you can buy individual stocks. You can trade on my app just like you can on Robinhood. You can self-direct your portfolio and not allow Matty to manage it for you. You can do all that. But I created it for the idea that Matty would help you manage your portfolio. What I want is I want to partner with financial institutions. So the SDK, if you kind of imagined like a power outlet on your back side of the app, it allows a financial institution to plug into your app and roll you out as it's like a third-party investment service for that institution.
That makes sense.
So it's helpful in a lot of ways. When you talk about business-wise, what it does for Matty is it lowers my cost of acquisition for customers. Otherwise, apps like Matty, apps like Robinhood, the cost of acquiring a new customer is extremely high. So SDKing my app to a financial institution cuts that like almost 88%. It's like ridiculous, the decrease in cost.
Wow, that's great.
So that's the number one reason. The number two reason is now you have the financial institution, you're like piggybacking on their marketing. You're piggybacking on their relevance and their like validity as a legit institution.
Right. Their
And
reputation.
that's been my biggest issue is like, oh, there's a 29-year-old dude from Greenville starting this app. I don't think it's his name, but it's Matty. Like they don't really understand. And so there's not a lot of credibility yet. And so I'm working on growing that credibility. In financial institutions provide that in leaps and bounds. So we're working, in fact, it's really cool. We're actually looking more so at credit unions because historically credit unions, I love them.
Yes.
Because they're very collaborative, whereas banks are very competitive. If one bank has something, they like to like hold it to themselves. Credit unions, if you're a part of, it's called the CUSO, C-U-S-O, but it's like the Credit Union Service Organization, and they all work together. So if one credit union, like let's say Navy Federal, one of the largest credit unions in the United States, is doing something and they like it, well, they'll share it with the CUSO, the organization of credit unions, and they all can participate. So
now
for
it's
me,
benefiting.
Yeah, it's
twice
benefiting
as many people. Yeah.
More than twice, like 10 times as many people. So that's what we're working on. There's a lot of registration that Matty's doing currently to be in compliance with credit unions and stuff like that. So we're working on that. So that's kind of where I've focused all of my energy, because yes, I could blow through $1 million from an investor and come up with some sort of catchy little Facebook marketing ad, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, whatever it is. And you over time, hopefully 90 days in, you do a reevaluation on your marketing penetration and you understand who's answering what type of ad and all that kind of stuff. But it's still extremely costly. And so I've decided, instead of, putting all my money there, let's start partnering. Again, it's not what you know, it's who you know, and creating those partnerships.
And it lends itself better towards that longevity as well, because you're spending time perfecting your app. And then, like you said, partnering and building relationships where, the best marketing is word of mouth marketing.
Yeah.
And so essentially what you're doing is hopefully having these credit unions or these banks, they are going to be your word of mouth marketing, and they have so much credibility.
Yeah. And essentially, if you have 90 plus days of performance, that's what everyone wants to know. Like, how are you doing? Or especially like in the first 6 months of this year, like, how are you doing? Well, Matty's up 3.21%. It's probably more now. That was the last time I checked last week. But the S&P is down negative 21%. So you can do the math.
Yeah.
That's a whole big difference. Yeah, 3%'s low, but still in this market.
Exactly. And that was one of my questions I was going to ask you is, are you concerned, or what concerns do you have about recession, inflation? We know these things go together. And talk to us about it from any standpoint you want to, whether it's yourself personally, for the app's growth, for investors investing into the app, because there's so many aspects to it. Like, are people going to hoard their money and keep it in a savings account versus sticking it into an investment?
Yes. Yes to all those questions. I'm concerned. Of course, I think everyone is. But quite honestly, the mattress is a safe place to put your money because inflation is so high. For heaven's sakes, you're going to spend, if you stick your money in a savings account, you're going to end up tapping it because you're paying twice amount for your gas. You're paying twice amount for milk, eggs, just to live. And that's not talking about, buying an extra pack of Bud Light just because you feel like it, like everything's so much higher. So really your money's not safe anywhere, including your savings account, unless like you lock that stuff down and you forgot the password, That's
such a great point. That's such a great point that people don't think about, is with inflation, is if your money is just sitting there in a savings account.
Yeah. Like, it's really,
your money's not doubling, everything else is doubling.
Yeah, exactly. So you're gonna use it. I'll tell you what I'm doing. And again, I'm very transparent, very open. I have funded 100% of this app. So I still own 100%, which is very rare. Yes, I was extremely fortunate. I had a great job. I saved up a lot of money. And so I've used it all up though. And what I'm doing now, and I think this is great, it's great to be lean, and so maybe check your subscription plans. Are you subscribed to Pandora and to Spotify? Well, pick one.
You don't, yeah.
Go, maybe, Netflix and Hulu, pick one. TV service. I cut my TV service off. I mean, it's depressing anyways.
Yeah, we don't have TV service
so,
either.
I have to have Wi-Fi or otherwise I'm dead in the water. I have to have a cell phone because that's my business. It's time to, scale back. Yes, I'm raising funds, but I haven't taken a dime of anyone's money yet. Mm-hmm. So, and right now I'm in conversations this week. So I'm hoping to find out, they're doing a valuation on Matty and they're going to give me an offer. So I'm really, really excited about that. I'm raising $5 million. So that's been a whole journey, but, like me, I am extremely lean right now. My truck, I drive a 2004 Chevy Silverado. Well, it's diesel, so that sucks.
Yeah.
But I own it. I've owned it forever. It's got 300,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
But I don't care. I don't need the latest and the greatest right now. But no, I think people are concerned, as they rightfully should be, where I keep telling myself, perfect example with the meme stocks. People got in way too late. So I owned GameStop when it was $18. People were getting in when GameStop was up to like $300.
Right.
So I owned it from 18 and I rode it to I think it was 249, and then I got out because I was like, okay, this is time for me to get out. Even though it went up to like 300 some plus dollars.
Yeah.
You can't be greedy in the stock market. And I think the same is for, if you're passionate about something and for me, I'm in a startup, I'm passionate about helping people, I'm passionate about investing. If I can just hold on, you're better off, because right now my stock is, in fictionary terms, it's $18.
Yeah.
And I really believe strongly that it's going to go up. And so I'll be able to ride that up and it'll pay off. And I will reap the benefit and the reward of sacrificing, not going out on Friday night, and putting that money all into the development of my app, into getting me to meetings so that I can have relationship building time. I think that's, but that's kind of how I'm wired. I don't know. I'm very, I enjoy delayed gratification.
And who knows what all the factors are that come in to create that personality type. It might just be something you're born with. It might just be how you're wired of, I can't sit still, I have to do something. And you are so, like you mentioned, passionate about this for reasons that are not just yourself.
Yeah.
So then you're willing to sacrifice, because I think it's really a subconscious thing with entrepreneurs, especially from just getting to know you a little bit today, of I know this is going to be successful, so I don't mind suffering now.
Right,
and I'm not,
right.
It's not hurting me like it might hurt someone else to make the decision of 2 steaks versus 1 steak in a week.
Yeah.
That's an easy decision for me, because that's an extra $10 towards gas to get me to a networking meeting.
Exactly.
And that's really how entrepreneurs have to think. And that's scary for a lot of people. A lot of people don't want to take that risk and they don't want to give something up.
Yeah. It's, and it's stressful. I will say though, I've had a lot of market validation and like my idea has been verified, invest. I mean, I had one, valuation that put me, just under 20 million,
Congratulations.
So that's great. So I'm not just like throwing my money and just like praying that, this turns out to be good. Like I've had some great, validation that my ideas got legs.
Part of getting this app in front of investors and getting these valuations is through pitches. So I wanted to ask you about that, because I'm sure you're doing a lot of pitches, prepping for a lot of pitches. Kind of take us through that process of how did you create a pitch, and then what's it like to deliver it? How do you prep for that? Because if there are small business owners, entrepreneurs out there listening, having a pitch deck and knowing your pitch is really crucial. So
yes,
talk to us a little bit about that.
So I have to give credit to my sales, the medical device sales company. They sent me to quite a few speech classes. Of course, it was all paid for by the company. Learned a lot. We had to actually give this, we called them lunch and learns, and we had to give an hour presentation about multiple myeloma or diabetes. And we had to answer questions from pathologists, which is very nerve wracking because pathologists are extremely intelligent. And they ask very intelligent questions to a non-doctor, but you are the expert in this particular product. So you have your confidence there, but you also are a little bit, it's nerve wracking. So I had a lot of experience there, pitching, if you will. How I do a pitch for Matty, I have a very small pitch deck. You want to be very brief. You want to be to the point. Less words is better because when you start rambling on, what you end up doing is unknowingly leaving a lot of questions in people's heads. And so then they can ask you a lot more questions and put you on the spot. So you want to be very to the point. This is what I have. This is who I am. You want to explain the problem, what the solution is, and how you're different. So that's kind of what I do. What I have to do for me personally is I type it out. And I can get my pitch in about 6 minutes. So I've typed out the pitch. And then, no, I don't use every period in the exact same place and every and but and all that. But at least I know. And so when I look at a slide, I know this is what I'm going to talk about. And it helps. So I do it in the mirror. You have to be really cautious of your face. Mm-hmm. You want to make eye contact. But back to what I said earlier, being a little bit vulnerable is good. Mm-hmm. It takes the temperature down in the room. And what I've found out, because of what the market's like, VCs are a little bit more withholding of their money, and they're not readily able or capable or even willing to pull their checkbook out. And so you have to know that. You have to go into it knowing that.
Who all makes up the Matty App team right now besides yourself?
I have my developer. I wouldn't be here without him. He's taught me so much, or if he didn't know, he put me in touch with people that did know. So with him comes an entourage of knowledge, whether it's his or other people. So that's been really great. And then my sister is she graduated Gardner-Webb with an accountant degree. So she's keeping up all the books. But she's also an investment advisor. Oh. So she's actually, her license is registered under the Matty umbrella. Mm-hmm. And so she's my chief compliance officer, because there's a lot of compliance.
Yes, there is.
You have to have reports ready for the SEC in FINRA because they can come at any time. Mm-hmm. They do annual audits, semi-annual audits. So there's so many things that you have to do. So she helps me with that.
If there's anything you want our listeners to walk away from this conversation, knowing about Matty App, understanding about Matty App, what is that?
I want people to just come along this journey with me, because I'm really on a journey. I'm on a journey to help people. That's my goal, but I want people to realize that I am no different than them. And yes, I've been very fortunate and blessed to have the medical sales job, to be in touch with certain people. And I'm very thankful for that all the time. Mm-hmm. But I want people to come along, and experience what I experienced. Back in April, I left my medical sales job. I haven't had a paycheck since April. So, and with all this inflation, it sucks.
It's a scary thing to do.
But maybe some individuals aren't capable of doing the jump that I did, and that's okay. But maybe they can follow me and watch my journey and learn with me. I just love to learn. I'm a glutton for learning. And so I just think it's an awesome opportunity. But I guess the biggest thing that I want people to know is I'm in this with them. And I'm scared like they're scared about the market. And I want to be able to provide some help for them. And, I think Matty is that vehicle for me right now.
Yeah.
So I'm all in, but I'm learning so much. And I just want everyone to learn with me.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And I would love to have you back in like 6 months or a year and update on Matty App and where we're at.
We should connect at 2023.
Yeah.
And I could recap the performance.
Yes, let's definitely do that. So thank you so much for coming today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You can download Matty App on the Google Play Store or the App Store, or visit matty.ai to learn more. Thank you again to John for sharing his journey with us. I look forward to having him return and update us on the scaling of Matty. Don't forget to follow Conversation Mill on Instagram for episode previews, and join Conversation Mill at conversationmill.substack.com for additional chats with our guests, entrepreneurship tips, leadership training, and member-only content. And as always, thank you for listening to Conversation Mill and being part of our community.